Hola, hola mis amigos y bienvenidos a otro video. Hoy vamos a hablar sobre el verbo gustar and our indirect object pronoun. Some pretty exciting stuff here. All right, so by this point you should have noticed that this unit board has quite a few more videos than we've had in our past, and the reason why is I'm taking this naturally large presentation that I already had and I'm breaking it down into these smaller components in hopes that it will be a little bit easier for you guys to take in that information and lock it away a little bit better, right? Shorter videos, better retention. We're gonna try it. So for the purpose of this video today, we are going to be looking only at what an indirect object pronoun actually is. All right, here we go. So working with IOPs, naturally, the very first thing that we come to is working with our verb gustar, right? So gustar means to be pleasing to, and it's used to express the idea of liking within Spanish. Okay? All right, so now that we have gustar defined as something to express liking, let's get right into the indirect object pronoun, or as we will call it from here on out, the IOP. So as you can read, it says the IOP refers to the person or thing for whom the action is being performed. You will hear me repeat this constantly throughout the rest of Spanish 1 and all of Spanish 2. In other words, an IOP answers the question to whom or for whom the action is being performed. Bold it, underline it, make stars and notes, I don't care. Just make sure that you can see it because this is our most vital piece of information. All right, so let's continue. All right, so first we're met with this example sentence. It says, Pedro escribe cartas a su amigo, right? We're saying here Pedro, and then here we see this verb escribir again. So Pedro writes letters to his friend. Now think for a second. Who is the person that is being affected? It's not our subject, okay? It's not the person doing the writing. It doesn't match, the verb here, right? The verb matches the subject. So who is left? Who is being affected? Hopefully we see it as amigo. So in this instance, it tells us amigo is the indirect object because he is the one, ready, for whom the action is being done. He is who is receiving the letters, right? So here we go. This is where we get into our pronoun positions. We could replace the word amigo, su amigo, his friend, with the pronoun, ready, him. Okay? So that would change the indirect object from just a friend to an indirect object pronoun, including the word him. Okay? So it's the difference essentially between saying he, which is él, and him. They're related, just like they are in English, but they're still not the same. You can't say in English, Pedro writes letters to he, right? Yeah, because he, that's a subject word. We would have to use, even in English, this indirect object pronoun. Pedro writes a letter to him. And within this unit, we're going to figure out how exactly to say it. But here we go. So we have some more example sentences here. Let's see if you can figure out where our indirect objects are found. The first sentence says, ella compra una mochila para él, right? So she buys a backpack for him. What I'd like for you to do for this sentence and the following three, I want you to pause the video actually and go in on your notes and highlight or underline the section that you think is our indirect object. All right? I'm going to go through and read them myself here in just a second, but I want you to try on your own, see if you can find the person or the thing that's being affected. All right. Hopefully you paused. And we're back. I'm going to go ahead and read them out and underline them here. The first one again. Ella compra una mochila para él. The person being affected here is él, right? For him. Now, I know that we just made a comment on the slide previous by saying él is a subject word, and that is true. But because this word here had been added, para él, is the only reason why putting él here at the end, or any of our other subject pronouns, could work. It literally means for him, okay? But we'll get into the specifics on that a little bit later. All right, so continuing. Dice, nosotros cantamos una canción para ellos, or we sing a song para ellos, for them, right? Ellos is our indirect object. Next, María cocina el desayuno para la familia. Maria cooks the breakfast for the family. Now, the person being affected here, or in this case, the thing, would be la familia as our indirect object. Y finalmente, ellos comparten la tarea con sus amigos, or they share their homework with their friends. In this sentence, those being affected are los amigos también. All right, hopefully we're catching on here, right? All right, let's move on. So, we're going to start working with our first IOP, and this is me. Me is the IOP that means to me. All right, somewhere on your notes, I have got to see it. I want you to write yo equals what? We know this. It's I, right? That's my subject pronoun. Me is not I. It means to me, okay? So yo and me are related, but they are not the same. You have yo, which is the subject pronoun, and then you have me, which is the indirect object pronoun, or like we said, the IOP. All right. So in Spanish, it's super important to note here that there is no exact translation of I like, okay? We are going to look at a comparison between the English construction and the Spanish construction, and I think you'll get to know what I mean. All right, so here we have this English construction here. We have I, right, like, and then we have this class. We would say that within Spanish, like so. Me gusta esta clase. All right? Me gusta esta clase. I like this class. Now, if we are literally translating, like a direct translation of what this sentence here is saying, it would look like this underneath. To me, this class, now you ready, is pleasing. Okay. So, it could also mean this class is pleasing to me. Okay. So notice how we do a little bit of flip-flopping here. Okay. Essentially, they mean the exact same thing. I always tell my students, choose whichever one of these mental translations makes sense in your brain and stick to it. Quite honestly, I think that this first option here is probably the easiest one to keep in mind because it kind of goes in order of this me gusta esta clase, or to me this class is pleasing, right? So again, in gustar, we don't have a direct translation of I like. It literally translates to like is pleasing to. All right, don't worry. We'll go over some more. So let's break it down a little bit further. So the Spanish construction, again, me gusta this class. Oh my goodness. You guys, I just found a typo in real time. Obviously, we know that this class needs to change, and that will look like esta clase right there. Don't worry, I'll give extra points, right? So here we go. Me gusta esta clase. I like this class, or this class is pleasing to me. All right, so esta clase is considered a singular noun. It is, get ready for it, the subject, okay? The class is the subject of the sentence. Gusta is the verb that agrees with the singular subject, okay? And then me, finally, is the IOP, or the person to whom the action is occurring, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and write that out myself as well. Make it nice and big. We have me gusta, and then we have esta clase. All right, so this class is pleasing to me. Now, it's important to note that the blue, esta clase, is the subject, because if I were to write this out in English, verbatim, as what we have here, it would be, right, to me, comma, this class, and finally, is pleasing, right? So I know for a fact that me, or to me, cannot be the subject ever, right? Because I am the one that's being affected. Me, I'm not doing the action. I'm not doing the pleasing. I'm not doing anything. In fact, what is doing the action, what is pleasing to me, is this class. So this is my subject, because the class is what is doing the pleasing, right? And I am the one that's being affected, making me the IOP. Okay? So this is why I point out the difference between yo and me. Because anytime you see me in a sentence, or another IOP for that matter, they are never the subject. It's always the thing in which that is doing the pleasing that we find our subject. Okay, so let's look at a few more examples here. Here we go. All right, so our first example here is me gusta la música. I'm going to underline me here, as it is my IOP, the one that's being affected. I have my verb here in yellow, and then the subject, what is doing the pleasing, is la música, or the music. Okay, so here is how we see it translated. We have the music is pleasing, and then we have finally to me, right? Again, if you feel more comfortable writing it in the other fashion, you could say to me, comma, the music is pleasing. Okay, you can do that for every single one, all right? Here we go. The next one says, me gusta el libro, or the book is pleasing to me. The subject here in this sentence, I want to see if you are able to figure out where our subject is. Go ahead, highlight or underline it in blue if you don't care. And then go ahead and do the one following as well. Let's see if you are able to figure out where our subject is. And then from there, we can obviously find the IOP and verb. So go ahead and pause, locate those last two subjects, and when you're ready, hit play, because I'm going to go ahead and highlight them myself now. We have me gusta el libro. So me is the IOP, of course. I have gusta is my verb, and then the subject here, el libro. The book here is what is doing the pleasing to me, right? And then our last sentence here, we say me gusta esta idea. Me, of course, is my IOP. We've got our verb gusta here. That leaves our subject for esta idea. In other words, that is, this idea is doing the pleasing, right? Is pleasing, finally, to me. All right. Let's do a few more together. Let's see. I'm going to say a sentence, and what I'd like for you to do is try and write it within your notes as well. So make sure that you include this somewhere on your notes sheet. Let's say, I like this lesson. I like this lesson. Here we go. Go ahead and pause. Make sure that you give it a shot. I like this lesson. I'm going to write it myself now in 3, 2, 1. I like this lesson should look like me gusta, here we go, esta lección, right? I like this lesson. In other words, we could say it, this lesson is pleasing to me. All right, and then our next sentence, which you'll pause again and give it a go on your own, is going to be, I like the computer, or the computer is pleasing to me. I like the computer is pleasing to me. All right, this is what it should look like, friends. We have me gusta, and then we have our subject here, la computadora. Right, so the computer is pleasing to me. All right, last slide here, guys, we made it. All right, so we have a few more examples here. We have me gusta el chocolate. I hope that you know what chocolate is. It says, I like chocolate, or we arranged it as chocolate is pleasing to me, of course. Now, this is our most important note here. So in the Spanish construction, subjects, we have retained their articles, el, la, los, and las, even when the English translation doesn't include them. All right? So looking up here at this top example here for el chocolate, it says el chocolate. In English, we know this as chocolate, of course. It is not considered to be the chocolate in the above example. So I wouldn't say the chocolate is pleasing to me. No, just saying in general, chocolate is pleasing to me. All right, friends, that is everything for this first little introduction. I hope you're doing all right. The next one coming up will be a continuation within this presentation, and I will see you guys there. Adios, amigos.